So today I'm back in the Derwent Valley, and recently we've been having a great look at the former communities and villages that were once Ashopton and Derwent Village and later covered up by all the waters of the reservoirs of Ladybower. And today I am back, but this time we're going to look at something a little bit different and try and find a couple of different things. I'm on the Bamford and Howden Railway, and this has a lot of significance and played a huge part in the construction of Derwent and Howden Dams. So the railway line begins at Bamford, the village just over there. Just outside of it, it came off the Hope Valley Railway line, and it was constructed between 1901 and 1903. It was completed, and hence the goods, the stone and everything coming from the quarries to construct the dams could be brought up this very line that I am on right now to complete the job in hand. Brought all manner of supplies up for the workforce too, and continued to do so until 1916, when the dams and reservoirs completed. There was no further need for the railway. Now the section I'm on now is 1.5 miles in length, and it will take us to Ladybower Reservoir. And this section was actually relayed and reopened in preparation and during the construction of Ladybower Dam and Reservoir. There's the view going forward. You see there's quite an embankment down there. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to follow this section up to Ladybower Dam and Reservoir, because there's a significant story to tell, and it is regarding how the railway bypassed Ashopton and continued on to Derwent. So I'll see you further up, about another mile, and I'll see you at Ladybower. So back at Ladybower Reservoir, I'm stood right next to the dam. To stand here, it actually doesn't look like the levels have actually risen, but at this point they have gone up about 3 meters since my very last video, part number 5, which came out a couple of weeks ago. So plug hole just there. Now before all this was built, you've got to imagine that Bamford and Howden Railway came along there. It skirted the valley and continued on around that side. We've got Ashopton Road over there. Over there we've got Wood Lane, just going down there. That is the road that went into the Hamlet of Ashopton. We've talked about that on episode 2 of this series of videos. And over there, the original Ladybower Bridge and the current viaduct which takes Ashopton Road over. So instead of going around there and off towards Derwent like we normally do, we're going to go this way. And we're going to go around the edge towards Ashopton Viaduct. And first of all, look at that from a side that we've not previously looked at it from. So down at water's edge, look, we've got the dam. Let me show you. That's just there below my finger. Wood Lane is just there, coming down and going in front of the current Ashopton Road viaduct just there. And the railway, again, it came around here, just down here, and shot around, and Ashopton Hamlet or village is just around that corner. So I'm going to get back up onto that footpath trail up there, and we'll have a look where Ashopton Viaduct is and try and point out some of the iconic buildings that once stood there, and then move on to talk about something very interesting indeed. So this is brilliant. I've got myself down almost opposite Ashopton Viaduct. That is just over there. I'll show you that in a moment. So we've come around here. Wood Lane was over there, and it comes down that embankment just out of sight around the corner. Not the one you can see in the distance. That's a newer one for the fishermen. There's the Ladybower Viaduct over there in Ashopton Road, and the Wood Lane came down here, meandered past the chapel around about there. It went past the cottages, slalom through. There was shops, post office, and then there was also the Ashopton Inn around about there. Further along, there was a bridge where the river used to go underneath it called Cockbridge, and there are actually some photos of Ashopton Viaduct being constructed in the background of this very bridge. But what's more interesting, that must have looked quite a sight back in the day, was of course the railway also came around here, and it had to get across the valley where Ashopton sat and carry on up towards where Derwent and Howden Dams were being constructed. So how was this done? Well, there's in fact a wooden railway viaduct built that carried the line over and upwards towards its destination of Howden. So let us jump to the maps and we'll have a little look at where we are. So you can see Ashopton Viaduct right here. That's carrying the A57 bridge, and Derwent Village is around about a mile above that. But we're looking at the village of Ashopton. We've been here before, and we're going to go to the partially faded map to give you a better picture of what was here. So Cockbridge Farm is just in the lower central position. You got the main body of Ashopton in the central position, and the River Derwent going north, and the original bridge going over the River Derwent, and Cockbridge was around about here. I'm going to go to the full clear map from around about the year 1900, and you can see it a lot clearer. You can see the river going off to the left hand side of the map as well. And a little look at Rail Map Online, you can see that purple line. We've seen this before, I've looked at it in a previous video. That is the Bamford and Howden Railway. Ashopton is right in the centre. You can see Ashopton Viaduct and that purple line that curves around and heads off towards Derwent Dam and Howden Dam and the reservoirs. That is what we are looking at now, the former crossing of the Bamford and Howden Railway. And I'll show you again with Ashopton Viaduct just behind me. So the railway came around from behind us and it curved around. The wooden giant viaduct, which would have been overlooking the very village of Ashopton below, went curving around towards its destination of Derwent and Howden reservoirs being constructed. So right down at water's edge now, you can see Ashopton Viaduct right behind me. There's something else opposite this that I want to show you though. There's not a lot, but I think it has some significance to show us what was once here. And the Cockbridge was a roundabout just there, and the inn as well, not far from it. So turning about, you can see there's a line of rocks. And when I've been over there a few times, I've wondered what these rocks were. And there's another line of rocks going up there. Now the water level has gone up about 3 metres in the last 3 weeks, so there's not as much visible as there was when I was over there a month or so ago. But there used to be a farm here, and it was Cockbridge Farm, so obviously named after the very bridge that was once sat here. I can see there's a little bit of something, like a little bit of wall over there, so I'm going to walk around and we'll take a little look in better detail to see if this probably is in fact remains of that very Cockbridge Farm. And it's really peculiar to think that this little trickle of water coming down between the sand and the mud is usually submerged in water most times of the year and almost every year. And there's a rocky waterfall right where I'm pointing, which is pretty much about where the cutoff or the water level actually is. So here's the remains of some sort of stone wall. Look, it's been knocked down, or maybe it was left up, but water levels and currents have subsequently knocked it over the years. You've got to think this has been underwater for about 80 years. Just down here, look. See, the wall carries on under the water, look. And just make that out. And that must continue on further down. So whether that was a perimeter wall for the farm, I'm not sure. Okay, back down at water's edge, and this bit is even better than the previous bit of wall I've shown you. So it actually shows some wall in situ. Look, you can just see it, and it goes under the water level, this stone walling, and it creeps all the way up there for quite a distance along the water's edge. So was this part of an actual track that came down to the farm, and it was a little roadway? Was it like a wall that divided a field on the other side maybe? And looking head on straight at it, look, you can see where it looks like a lot of birds sit there, doesn't it? And it goes all the way along. Curiously, it is slightly leaning to an angle in that sort of direction, and that's probably natural erosion on that side on the water's edge, and it's gradually making it collapse and become soft underneath. We'll follow it up some more and see what we've got here, because I could see something that looks like a piece of timber attached to a piece of stone, and even the corner of some kind of wall just there. Look, that's marvellous, isn't it? And some sort of gate post as well. There we go, yet another one to tick off the list. It's very muddy just here. I'm going to stand just here on this rock so you can see that piece of timber that is in fact attached to that, look. And the wall carries on, look, and makes another one which seems to jolt out just there, and another piece of timber right in the centre of shot right now. I'll take a step back so you can see this gate post from another angle. It is quite muddy just here, so got to be very, very careful. There's a closer look at that wall just there. If I bend it down just there, it's like a little alcove, look, right in centre of shot with that larger piece of stone above it. So probably the corner of some sort of building, because it comes in like this, look, goes there, and then seems to stick out just there. So maybe a farm building, like a barn, anything for animals maybe. A whole piece of pipe work here, look. That's good, isn't it? Right, let's push on and follow this wall a little bit more, because I'm hoping to find something quite significant up here, which I believe was a major part of building that wooden viaduct over Ashopton Village. As we get to the end of that wall, look, there appears to be a little bit of a gap and a bit of a headstone just there where it appears to stop, and then it carries on down to water's edge and beyond. So it's now time to leave the site of Cockbridge Farm, and we're going to go see if we can find something else remarkably interesting indeed. Okay, I found two very interesting, significant things in exactly the same location. So you can just make out Ashopton Viaduct right there in the distance. It's probably about a quarter of a mile or so away. Look at this, it's like a kind of a slipway or a channel. Going straight down, concrete sides, all the way down to water's edge. And going straight back up into where I believe there's a little stone bridge that we'll go and find in a moment. Let's have a quick run down and we'll have a look, see what this does. Because we're not really going to see the very bottom, but we'll see where it goes into the water. So this was this here before the reservoir was constructed, but the two concrete channels would maybe suggest otherwise. So was this actually built for a means to fill the reservoir? I haven't got a clue. Does anybody know what that would probably be for? Because the concrete seems to stop, or it's just silted up and buried, but the little channel and stream continues on down into the water. Look, I'm not going to see anything different underneath the water. It just so happens that's where the water is at the moment, but as you know, all this would be completely submerged normally. It just disappears down there. There is a stone wall going up there as well, which has been knocked down, so maybe there was a kind of a property here as well. We'll have a little look at maps and see if that tells us anything, but I'm going to get myself up to the top because the most important find of today's explore is just there to the side of us. Just through there, look, you can see that little stone bridge, which is now a footpath. So when I finish showing you around this little area, I'm going to jump up there. So it looks like there's even a kind of a tunnel. It's gated off, but it looks like there's a tunnel up there. So you're going to love this. This is probably one of the most amazing finds that I have come across. I've got to thank a chap called Paul for pointing this one out to me. It's extraordinary, and I'm so glad I've come all the way around just to see this. Look, let me just turn you around. It's an old piece of industrial railway. Look at this, narrow gauge. Really peculiar. We've got two sleepers on top, but they're not fastened on. These have dropped off underneath at some point, and someone's just laid them to rest on there so they don't get washed away, I suppose, because we've got two sleepers poking out just here, look. But you see the grass over time has just covered up this rail, and a lot of erosion has allowed all that to break away and go down there. I can't see any traces of anything railway related down there. There's a couple of rods here though. It's a little bit windy here, so they've got to be something to do with it, haven't they? Let's pick one up. Really heavy. And I do have a theory for what this was for. Okay, another look at the maps. So we've got Ashopton Viaduct and the former Ashopton Hamlet just over here. But where we are, we're on this curve that heads around in the opposite direction and away from Ashopton. We'll zoom in a bit closer and you can see the bend. And this former piece of railway track is just here. And there is also a peculiar doorway that goes into the side of the hill with a gate on it, which I believe is actually welded. We're going to look at that in a little while. And there's also a little hut. We'll go into the partially faded map and you can see roughly where the river flowed through the valley and all sorts of different buildings. We've got Nether Ashop, and also we've got Lee End Bridge as we zoom over to the full map from 1900. It's a completely different landscape, isn't it, back then, just over 100 years ago. And as I look down the embankment from that piece of track work sticking out just there, look, there's another sleeper, and there's a lot more over here, look, which have gradually washed their way down the embankment when the waters have gone up and down. Even a piece of rail here, look. Wow, that weighs a ton. An actual piece of narrow gauge rail just sat there beside the reservoir and usually lost to nature. Here's a nice side-on view, look, we've still got the fish plate and two bolts present, and the track join just there. Isn't that phenomenal? Underneath. So again, they've just been balanced on there for preservation, I suppose, by an individual. You can see here, underneath, still fastened on. Brilliant. I quickly moved that sleeper off, not very heavy at all, just to get a better photo of it. Curiously, if we go along here, there's another one. There's another sleeper, look, and there's even a wooden one just there, and potentially a bit more. And it seems to disappear until we get to here and here. Let's go around a little further, see if there's any more evidence. Just here, look, more wooden timbers going into the hillside there. So I think it's time to talk about what I think this probably was. So of course they needed to build the viaduct for the Bamford and Howden Railway, but how would they get the timbers from A to B? There's a huge forestry area just here, and the most sensible solution I can imagine would be that they chopped a lot of these trees down on the hillside, and they had to find a way to transport them from here over to Ashopton, just there. So they'd need a narrow gauge industrial line putting in, one that could be just popped down really quickly. It'll stand the test of time for a couple of years, and they could transport all this timber from the forestry site down to where the viaduct was being constructed. I've looked at many scenarios at what this may be for, and that seems the most likely situation scenario. Could be wrong. I'd like your theories to be commented down below. One last thought on this. Where this comes out like that, the trajectory is over there. So was there actually a little junction just here, or a set of points? Because this one is at that angle, look, and that one, that's at that angle. So was this a little junction, and the embankment went around to form another section of track work that joined onto this one? If you jump up the top carefully, get on top, again you can see this track work coming, and then it's buried. So I must be walking on it, and it must be heading over in this direction. It's completely grassed over, and then it turns into a great big forestry area over there. So there wouldn't be much more if there was any, and I'm not expecting to find anything else. I was surprised I found that additional section which was buried under the land, which looked like a second piece of track work. I'll just push on through these trees and we'll check that there's nothing else there. And I've come out the other side now of that little section of trees, so our little piece of track work was just about 100 metres through there, and there's just this wide open area. It's a bit gravelly and barren, maybe to suggest that there was something here before. And after that it's just trees and bushes, and there's that great big expanse of woodland, look, going all the way over there. It would make sense. You need to build a wooden viaduct over there. We've got thousands upon thousands of trees about 120 years ago. Let's put a little railway track that skirts over there around the valley, and we can build ourselves a railway viaduct. What's your opinion on that? I'd really like to know. Okay, that slipway is just there, and that piece of track is just there. So I've walked along there, that's what we've just done. We've come out there, and I've come back along this way, and it's another sleeper on the ground, look. So that has clearly come from up there somewhere. You can see where it's all collapsed, look, and just gone. So the track bed could have been this bit that's collapsed. I think it's still the bit that's still up there. I think if you dug, come with a spade or a trowel or whatever, and poked around, I think you'd actually find more of these rails. It'd be really interesting to find out, wouldn't it? There's another one just there, look. Okay, stood atop that little bridge. You can just make out the chute going down there, look, through centre of shot. This is where it gets really, really curious. There's the concrete chute just there, look, coming down, and then up there there's a little stone hut, and what does in fact still appear to be a little tunnel. This is phenomenal. It's a little hut, like a little, maybe it controlled the flow of water coming down this chute. Look, it is in fact a tunnel, or like a culvert. It's an access into the hillside. What is in that hillside that needs to be gated off? Now it is for a channel of water, you can see it's going down there, but where does it come from? We're going to have a look at maps briefly, just so you can see what this is just here. I can see bats flying around down there. It's quite, oh, and birds coming out as well. It's quite eerie, that is. Look at this stone wall. This little hut is so small. It's almost like it's just lost in time. What I need to do is, I don't think I can get down there. That's quite a steep drop. Maybe I can up near the bridge, but I'll get the other side anyway, and we'll have a look inside this hut. I haven't brought my torch with me, so even if I could get down there, I can't shine it in. I think next time I come back in this area, we'll have to have a poke around, and I'll remember to bring my torch. It'll be worth getting down there and having a look, won't it? Right, we can have a look. Very, very small building. Look, there's a great big hole in the bottom. Just there, look. Some kind of pipe. And I can see another pipe or cabling or something at the very bottom. Got shelves. No sign that there was any lighting in there, but you'd have thought there would be. Again, I can get you around to this side. You can see that doorway a heck of a lot clearer. But it does look welded shut. Right, the only way to get a nosy of that little tunnel entrance is to get down this side, walk underneath, and have a look this way. I think it's beaten me. This is really, really thick mud and I'm sinking. I can't physically get any closer without going down. But there it is, look. If anybody knows what this is, drop us a comment below. And that's about it. Maybe we can come back and look at that in the drier months next year. But we've done for today. So from this amazing discovery of the old railway, this chute of concrete which probably had water gushing down it, the site of Cockbridge Farm, and that peculiar tunnel and building. What was it for? If you know of anything else around this area that you'd like me to come and have a look at and try and explore and explain a little bit, just drop us a comment below. Thank you for watching. It's been brilliant. See you in the next one.